Have you eaten well and everything?
I've eaten a little bit.
Because this is going to be like...
Is it a long one?
It's a long one.
So
you can take a break.
I'm surprised you've not seen any of Anurag's films after Dave. Did you guys like have a fallout or something?
He went in public and said a lot of lies about me. So one lie I'll give you, for example, he said that I demanded a hotel room.
A 5-star hotel room?
Yeah, he actually came up to me and said, listen, you can't stay with us, you're a Deol. So I'm going to put you up in a hotel room. He literally told me that. I'm saying this on camera. And what he told the press was I demanded it. But he's definitely a liar. He's definitely a toxic person. And I would warn people of him.
Do you know someone like that?
The escort? Did I know someone like that? I'm not going to tell you.
I can still ask, right? Hello and welcome to Sit With Hitlist, our completely unscripted, award-winning podcast and print series of conversations, of course. My name is Mayank Shekhar. With me is, well, someone I've not seen in a very long time.
Yes.
Abhay Deol, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
When I say I haven't seen you in a very long time, obviously I mean in person. We've been seeing you every other week or every year for sure.
Yeah.
And just to give a time placement to this conversation, is taking place right at the beginning of New Year. The screeners are out. The series is not. The series we're talking about is Trial by Fire, which was on the Upahar tragedy, the Upahar cinema tragedy. I have, of course, seen the trailer so far, not the series yet. And you're looking fantastic.
Thank you. Even with the mustache and the glasses?
Yes, the second time, right? But mustache, I remember you from Shanghai. Where
and
you were,
Manorama.
And Manorama, 6 Feet Under. Shanghai, there is a podcast, I will tell you about it. Just listened to it like a few days back. And I wish I'd remembered the names of these two women. They make great conversations on movies. And they had a full section, a full episode on Abhay Deol movies.
Oh.
And they said that there is a certain way Abhay Deol walks, all right? And he walks like that in every movie. The one movie he's changed his walk was as Krishnan in Shanghai. Is that true?
Well, I mean, there are physical characteristics that I suppose you don't change easily because you're unaware of them. With Shanghai, that may be true because, not that I consciously worked on my walk, but I did have to work on my accent. He's a Tamil Brahmin, South Indian,
right.
And I had to put on my Hindi like a Tamilian would speak, which is hard to find because no Tamilian really speaks Hindi. They speak to you in English. And we don't have an infrastructure of accent training for actors and stuff like that in our country, really. We got this out-of-work Tamilian writer who I worked with and found a system. So maybe in that process, a lot changed that I was unaware of. It's possible.
Right, and you were playing Krishnan there, and you are Krishnamurti, if I'm not mistaken, in Trial by Fire also.
But the difference between these two characters is Krishnamurti is born and raised in Delhi.
Okay. That changes everything.
Yeah, well, the way he speaks. He sounds like you and I.
Right.
Whereas Krishnan hasn't grown up in this specific urban environment, grew up in South India, would not speak Hindi, So that is a difference between.
So then you're like as good as any other Delhi guy in the show,
He's
right?
the regular Delhi guy, actually.
Like say the guy from Oi Lucky Lucky Oi.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
of
really.
course, just that Lucky would be lower middle class and Krishnan would be middle class.
So that's like a Dibakar Banerjee film we mentioned, Shanghai, and went to...
Yeah, actually, they're both the Dibakar Banerjee films, correct. Yeah, so there would be the class difference, obviously, but other than that, nothing really.
My memory of Oi Lucky Lucky Oi actually, of course, great film and, stands the test of time and people still love it. My memory of that is actually not so much the film, and of course that remains, is when it came out, it came out right when 2611 was on.
Wednesday, the 2611 started on Wednesday, we were coming out on Friday, yeah.
What was that like?
Well, look, people were getting killed. So for me, my focus was on that fact. So then I couldn't indulge in the fact that my film will be affected when there's people dying. So
But could you have held back the release?
They were it was UTV, and honestly, look, it's Wednesday, and the studio has to decide between Wednesday and Friday whether to delay release or not. They decided to go ahead with it, so you have to respect that decision because it's a hard place to be. And so obviously we were being warned not to go into public places because the firing happened, the shooting was going on till Friday.
Right.
So it's like the day of release, it was still firing going on. So no one went to the cinemas that weekend, obviously. But it lasted a long time, and that was its mark of success, the reviews and the fact that it didn't come off the cinema. So people slowly started trickling in, and they would go watch this movie in particular. But yes, for sure it affected the success of the movie.
Did you have to work really hard for that particular role as compared to the others, or was it not your toughest role? Do you have a toughest role, by the way?
Trial by Fire was tough in the fact that it's a true story. So someone went through this. And so it was hard to digest that. It was
And
just
they're around.
And they're around.
And you met them.
Yeah, well, we're meeting them now.
Okay, you're meeting them.
Because it was important for my director. It's like, he said, just play. We're taking the fact that their kids died, that the cinema burnt down, that they fought. They're an inspiring story. But obviously, it's a cinemas, right? So there's going to be some things that have to be added for narrative's sake, you know. So I don't want you to copy their mannerisms. It's based on their life. You know, like for simple, like superficial things, like they're having a drink. The wife doesn't actually drink.
Right.
But it works effectively in a scene, you know. There's this whole birthday cake incident, which is placed much differently than it actually happened in real life. Because you know how it is when you're making a movie or a show, those things add to the value of the drama in there. So he was like, I want you to make it your own. So it's tough because of how tragic this was and the fact that it's true. Shanghai was tough because, like I said, there's no infrastructure for accent training for actors, and most Tamilians speak in English. So how do you make a Hindi Tamilian accent?
And besides, hire a person
so
hang around with you.
So I started, I don't remember it now, just went through because I believe that the way we learn the letter, the alphabet, is the way we speak. So I'll give you an example. Both Hindi and Spanish are phonetic languages. You read them exactly the way you write them. Right. So like, for example, the Spaniards say A, B, C, D, Che, A, B, C, D. So the A is always A. They'll call me Abhay. They won't call me Abhay. Because A is A, B, C, D, Che, A. E is A. So you know what I'm trying to say?
I know what you mean, yeah.
So I try to get into the Tamil alphabet like that to see if it is also phonetic. Not that I'm going to start reading Tamil, but I want to know how the K sound is or the A sound is and this, that and the other. I was just making it up. I would have him read my dialogues and then I would then try and mimic him. Obviously I can't mime while I'm acting, but I could when I'm off camera. Like for example, there is no her in Tamil. So, and there's no burr. So I remember him telling me this. I hope I haven't mixed it up, the memory. So he says most likely someone from Tamil will call you Appai. They tend to go per instead of burr, and there's no H there. So stuff like that was insightful. And I'm like, okay, so then I know that when I'm reading my dialogue, whether it's a B or an H, those are specific consonant sounds that they change. So just like
so
that.
like speaking of Mr. Krishnamurti, right? And that's a person who exists, who's been through all those things that you go through as the character in this series. Have there been other instances where there have been real life people and you're sort of playing them?
There's Bunty Chor.
Right.
And we couldn't sit and chat with him because of the kind of nature he is. I mean, this one we couldn't also really consult Shekhar and Neelam because of, look, you're not going to relive that. It's a tough one to relive. Yeah. So it's very awkward to put a person in that position. With Bunty Chor, he was just all over the place. There was no way to get in touch with him.
He was obviously not incarcerated. He was obviously not imprisoned, right? I mean, he was around somewhere.
No,
you'd have to find him.
You'd have to find him.
Yeah.
So there's been some interesting characters I've had to play the rest of the
I mean, I remember seeing like a BTS video of Oi Lucky where, you're jumping over a gate and Dibakar says, show your face. Because I want the audience to know you actually jumped that gate. So you were trying to be Bunty as much as you possibly can, right?
I mean, it's fun doing stunts as much as I can. I will. I think the Bakar was a bit surprised as to how easily I was scaling. It's quite a large gate. I was like, it's okay. It's not that hard. And that's when he said, okay, I want people to see this.
Right.
I was like, sure. I think that's when the dog grabs me or something. I don't remember. There's one where I know I'm climbing and the dog grabs me.
It's there in the BTS in case anybody wants to watch this. I think one more character that came from a real life person, and this is something I discovered over time, not when I'd seen the movie, is Devdi, and apparently that's you. Obsessive in love, experimenting with drugs, and a modern Devdas in your own right, at least for the screen. Well, would that be correct?
Well, the reason why I wanted to contemporize the book was exactly that. I read the book, And I was like, why do they make such a big deal out of this guy? He's a more chauvinistic character. And then there's such a it's such a male patriarchal view of a man and women relationship, where the women are just fawning over him. No matter what he does, he can never be wrong.
It's a fantasy, right? And it's coming from the 1800s.
Like, there's something wrong here. So I was like, let's empower the women. Let's call out his chauvinism. Let me see if I can still get him empathy. As far as the alcohol, I mean, of course, he's an alcoholic in that. And I was like, I grew up in an environment now in the modern age where drugs and alcohol both, it's all available. So, you know, this is a tale that can be said even today. Chauvinism exists even today. Patriarchy exists even today. But what didn't exist back then was giving women a much stronger role. And my Chanda character was far stronger than what eventually got made into the movie, because she was an East European pole dancing escort who's fine the way she was. She was making great money and she's traveling the world. She takes pity on him, but she doesn't get as vulnerable as he does, because it was important for me for having both the women not playing to his bullshit. But obviously it worked for Anurag, where she was as vulnerable as he was, and she was a victim too. For me, he was the only victim. The women only grew stronger from
Did you
their
know someone like that?
The escort? Did I know someone like that? I'm not going to tell you.
I can still ask, right?
Can ask. I know all sorts of people, let's just put it that way. Sure, I know.
Including yourself.
Yeah, I know a few escorts in my life.
You know, we've obviously touched upon Anurag Kashyap's film. That's Devdi, huge commercial success. We've touched upon Dibakar's film, and these are like early works of these two directors,
Yeah.
right? I'm interested to know, like, what do you think of how they turned out to be storytellers thereafter, the trajectory in their careers?
I honestly haven't seen anything of Anurag's after that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gangs of Wasapur, maybe?
No, I don't think I saw any of his work after that.
Okay.
And with Dibakar, I liked Love, Sex or Dhoka. I felt there was something missing, no doubt. I mean, we don't need to get into that, because you still saw the spark of a genius mind there. But then the Byomkesh was not necessarily like it. I feel like with a lot of these guys, the pressures of conforming are so great. There's a lot of insecurity. And then more money comes in, more demands come in. And it's very hard to retain your original sort of drive or personality that brought you to this place to begin with. You know, so I think a lot of that has happened with me too, I suppose, in a way. But I mean, I didn't put myself out there to be that vulnerable, because I knew, you know, unless I don't have my group around me, I'm just going to end up conforming. So I just won't work.
But I'm surprised you've not seen any of Anurag's films after Dave. Did you guys like have a fallout or something? Like stop talking to each other?
He went in public and said a lot of lies about me. So one lie I'll give you, for example. He said that I demanded a hotel room.
A 5-star hotel room?
Yeah. He actually came up to me and said, listen, you can't stay with us. You're a Deol. So I'm going to put you up in a hotel room. He literally told me that. I'm saying this on camera. And what he told the press was I demanded it. So there was clearly a lot going on, which was not professional. And I saw a person who was a really close friend at the time. And I was like, whoa, okay, fine. I mean, that time I myself was reactive because I wasn't understanding what was going on. And I was reactive. And I was very easily manipulated at that time. So now when I look back, I'm like, oh, good one. Like, I see you. Heart on sleeve and all is all very great, but you get taken advantage of. You're reactive. So he was a good lesson for me to learn. So then I just avoided, because I don't need toxic people in my life. You know, life's too short and there's so much more to explore. But he's definitely a liar. He's definitely a toxic person. And I would warn people of him.
Would that be an exception from the early part of your career? I mean, you're also one of those directors, and I'm sure you hear this very often. Every profile of yours would say that, is someone who's worked with the most number of first-time directors.
My first 5 were all debuts.
Right. Right. So let's go with them. Like there's Imtiaz Ali, of course.
That was the debut, yeah.
Rima Kagdi. These two like had amazing careers thereafter as well.
Yeah. Navdeep was in the first 5. Yeah.
Maroma. What do you think of their trajectory? Like how their careers went in terms of storytellers? Let's start with Imtiaz.
Why am I commenting on? Is this what the show is about?
No, it isn't. It isn't. I'll tell you why. Because these directors built their careers on the basis of their first film that was with you. And the fact is, Abhay, they did not work with you thereafter.
Yeah, and Anurag used that to say this is why directors. I know a lot of actors who don't want to work with him. So I was like, yeah, I don't know if that what you mean you're coming from. Like, I'm not part. Like I said, there's a lot of pressures to conform. There's a lot of pressure when there's a lot more money behind you. I did get this feeling like, oh, you know, you're not big enough, which is ironic because when I work with them, neither were they.
Right.
So you have to kind of either believe in someone and believe in a vision, even if it goes against the norm, or you can say that I'll keep my vision, but I will take bigger powers because I'll get more money, I suppose. I was taking a lot of it on myself, and I know I made mistakes, but it's like, no, I think, you know, like the directors I meet today are far more secure in who they are, and they're more willing to put themselves out there and take a chance. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I can't answer for them.
Right,
like I'm searching for answers to give you, and I hate making it about me when it's about somebody else.
Right. No, I mean, of course, this is not directed at any individual.
Yeah.
But do you think, at some level, and this might well be true for all mainstream industries, or it could well be true for life in general, that there is an element of someone being young and rebellious, but you're really looking to get to that table, and once you do, you just become the same person. Do you think that happens?
Well, I was definitely young and rebellious, and I wore that on my sleeve. I guess that I didn't have the maturity to balance that rebellion with a little bit of diplomacy. I mean, I say it now, I was a rebel and now I'm a diplomat, because rebellion got me this far, and now if I still want results and a rebellion is not getting it for me, then diplomacy would be my next. Right. I guess, so I can only speak for myself. I was no way a diplomat. And I was also speaking truth to power a lot. You know, I was calling out musician rights and producerial rights. I was calling out people for endorsing fairness creams, blah, blah, blah. So no one likes the one solo guy who's trying to play conscience in the industry.
You said this somewhere, something to the effect of, no one likes a critic. They'll admire you, but they won't give you work.
Yeah.
Is that true? Is that something you faced?
I mean, I'm speaking from experience. Here's the thing, though. Like, these are things that I genuinely don't think of. Like, I'm talking to you about it now.
Because I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't like talking about them, not because I'm hiding anything, but because it's not what I care to read about, because there's so much of this has been written about and spoken about, and I've spoken about it, and I've been asked about it. I get asked about it over and over again. So that I got tired. It's like, and also I'm in that space in my life right now where I don't look at the past. Like when Anurag said that crap about me in public, he sent me apology messages.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did. Of course, that's Anurag does that all the time. And he was like, if you want to shout at me, scream at me. And I was like, I don't care. It's been 12 years. Like, you don't feature in my thoughts. And even now, get over it. How much of this are you going to do? So, and I would never take him by name and say the things I said had he not gone public.
Right. You're responding to
a statement
made in
public. So I can use him
Right.
as example because he obviously felt free with me. And so I don't anymore look at those things. He was really pushing me to shout at him and scream at him on those messages of apologies. And I was like, yeah, I forgive you. He said, just forgive me because I've had a bad day. I said, you're forgiven. And so that's how I feel about everything. Everything else that you're asking me. It's like, yeah, okay, rebel, this, that, heart on sleeve, this, that, all right. It's a great journey for me. I'm really happy that I did what I did, because you only learn from your mistakes.
Right.
I never had a personal agenda. It was far bigger than just me. So I know that's why when you said people respect you, they may not work with you, but they'll respect you. That respect counts for a lot. And they'll come around and work with you, especially if you learn your diplomacy a little bit better, because you make life easier for them as well. It is a tough industry, and it only serves your ego to rebel so far, where it's just you being the lone voice. Then it's like if it's not about you, then you find a different tack, because you have to, no man is an island, as they say. You have to engage the other people around you as well, and also learn from them, see how they've survived, how did they balance things out, because not everybody's a hypocrite. You know, it may seem like that to you because you're on one extreme.
Right. And a lot of bitter people say that. They just think that someone who's doing well must have done something wrong, but that's not always the case.
No,
right?
We do what we have to do, and if what you do is not affecting you in a negative manner or somebody else, then who cares what other people have to say? Ultimately, you know, we do want success. We do want to be seen and heard. And if people are doing what it takes, that's their life. And I'm not bitter about that now.
Yeah, I really hope you don't mind me asking you these questions, because that's really what people say, and it's only fair that I just bring it in front of you. Because the other thing that I'm pretty sure you read about yourself, or people have told you up front, is that if we look at your career trajectory, right, there is something that happened in 2013. The great movies, one after the other. And which is not to say that the movies you did or series
I
you
hear
did
you.
thereafter was not great. I mean,
I hear
that's
you.
a personal, it's a subjective call in any case. What you think is great, it may not be great for someone else.
No, I get it. You don't
let's say-
justify it.
Yeah.
Go on. You don't justify
So what
it.
happened? Like, did you lose your mojo?
Look, it's everything collective. Like I said, I don't like talking about it because I don't want to come across like I'm bitter or like a victim. I don't care. But when you take a stand, then you take a stand. And that has consequences. And then, are you ready to face those consequences?
Like, give me an example of a stand and how that could have had some consequences.
I don't know, calling out people for endorsing fairness creams.
So that's like A, B, C, not going to work with you. Because what the hell?
I don't think that's, for
not
example,
as simple as that,
It's
right?
not as simple as
Yeah,
that. No,
yeah.
like I did a guest appearance in Shah Rukh's Hero. Shah Rukh was one of the people, and he's a really dignified man, and he wouldn't. It's collective. It's then showing up with a black eye on a red carpet and calling out Bhushan Kumar by name and saying T-Series, blah, blah, blah. It is constantly saying, why do we have to have song and dance? Why can't we have this, that, and the other?
Right.
It is then also having people like an Anurag spread crap about you behind your back. So it's the one reason.
Right.
This all happened collectively, and I take responsibility for all of it because we all create our lives. Even when there are external forces working against you, it's also your provocation of them sometimes. So I've learned to take that responsibility. And so yeah, post 2013, it was tough, and I also took a back seat. I was like, okay, now I'm not going to go back and pretend like nothing ever happened. And I'm not going to go back and now be a different person. So I'm going to sit back and just see what comes my way and quietly work. Now, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then so be it.
Also, the world changed, right? Around
The
the,
world
same
changed.
time, right? I mean, there was the multiplex cinema
Yeah.
that thereafter became what is
Yeah.
OTT now.
Yeah.
There was something that happened in multiplexes too. Up until 2019, there was the Ayushmann Khurranas of the world, the Rajkumar Raos of the world delivering 100 crore plus movies, which has stopped happening now suddenly after the pandemic. What do you make of this change, Abhay? Like, in terms of looking at media and storytelling, from multiplex to OTT, from films to series. You're doing all of them, of course. You're like the OTT star before there was OTT, right?
Yeah, a couple of people said exactly that to me. Technology was always here to create a lot of change, a lot of disruption. And that's what I was not necessarily directly talking about. I was just looking for change in our creative spaces because I felt like as filmmakers, we can reflect culture, but we can also create culture. So why are we dumbing down our audiences? Let's treat them with a lot more dignity and intelligence. Because if we don't, someone else will. And then technology comes in and does exactly that.
Right.
It is rapid. It's not something that everybody can necessarily adapt to very easily. Some find it more difficult than others. It's challenging. Never in human history has so much change come so fast. As a creator, it's exciting because there's so much fodder, but I still have to hold myself back because you may be at this level of thought, but it might be offensive or far too way out there for people to digest. So you still have to kind of temper yourself. But technology helps. Like a Netflix, this show will go to the world.
Right.
So you're not just being watched in India, you're being watched in Nigeria as well, as much as you're being watched in...
And you could do this in the environment of box office alone, right? You couldn't do a trial by fire. You think people watch
with the OTT, it's a game of subscribers.
Yes.
But that just means that they obviously will make the mainstream stuff that has a large audience.
Yeah.
But because they're a digital space, they can also make the non-mainstream stuff. They can do both. Whereas cinema can only make the mainstream. Once in a while, they come up with something indie, but even that becomes difficult because there's a whole lot of interference because they're so insecure making something different that they...
And that's what you were fighting, were you?
There was that too. It's like, let's go the distance. Like, no, but let's put this and then that element, which is completely mainstream. I'm like, either then you make a mainstream film, you know. Don't, otherwise you're left in between, it's neither here nor there. So there was a lot of that happening as well. Whereas when the OTT, know what you're signing up for. Are you signing up to make a mainstream Bollywood movie, or are you signing up to make something independent that completely shatters the myth of what a Bollywood film is?
Right. The reason why, Abhay, I'm going on and on about this particular phase in your career, in your life, is it means a lot to people who are watching it who are very young.
Yeah.
Right. So you started around 2005, 6.
Five.
If I'm 5 is your release. So a little before that. So someone was born then is an adult now. Went from 0 to 18, right? They need to know all those changes that took place. And I was watching an interview of yours. I watch everything by Simi Garwal, like anything, right? It doesn't matter. And you're sitting there. In fact, I actually took that clip to show it to you because I want to ask you something from there. I mean, never mind the rest of the conversation. It was more about you dating and who all you can be with, blah 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 blah. But there is a part where by the way, do you believe in astrology?
More so now than ever before. Let's just put it that way.
You do?
Yeah,
so you read the horoscopes?
No, I don't. I not that much. But do I believe it may have a real impact? Sure.
Okay.
But I honestly go into it, though.
Sure. So this is the part where you are with a tarot card reader.
If it will ever happen, and if at least pre-production will start by the end of this year.
Yes.
Oh, she says it will happen. Oh.
So basically, for those who can't watch this, that you were very keen on the project, you want to put this together, and of all the questions that you could ask someone who's a fortune teller was, if this movie is going to happen. What was this movie and what happened?
I'd rather not talk about it because it never did happen. Clearly her cards weren't right. The Empress who came was
the person also said that you're going to get married soon.
Oh, they did
So
it?
clearly all the cards were wrong. So much for believing in tarot.
Yeah, no, that never happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would that mean? It would mean that you have a director in place, a story in place, a script in
I
place,
had the
everything.
script in place.
They don't think it's going to work in box office, right?
I had the directors too, and they were debuts, and really nobody wanted to take a chance on them. And they weren't willing to it was their subject. They didn't want to let go. I was like, okay, I've tried, I've come this far with you guys, we've tried so many people, they all want to make this, but they don't want to make it with you. And I understand if you don't want to give it over to me to make it with somebody else, so good luck. And that was it. And they
Do you have a lot
still haven't made it.
They still haven't made it. Is it still a relevant story though?
Someone copied it.
Oh, wow. This is a quiz. This is a trivia night. Someone copied it and made what?
Yeah. Oh no, it wasn't even an Indian film, it was a Brit movie.
You want to do an international film.
It was very much with the Desi community though.
Okay.
So it's very much an Indian film,
Right.
which is based in England.
But you've had a couple of those situations, right? Where you've shot a film and it's stopped midway and...
I've had, yeah.
Basra would be one?
Basra shoot didn't start.
Okay.
Production had.
It was a
but
zombie movie?
The zombie one had stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rakta Shadi, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's such a good script. Well, there's been a few of those experiences that I've had. But it's okay. It's the past. Like, I appreciate the questions, but I'm that point in my life where I really, like, I've worked through all of this.
Yeah, no, I get it. No, I don't think the idea is to, sort of...
like I don't care about what anyone said or what the experience was. They were all relevant. They all needed to happen to
and they
me.
make you who you are.
Yeah, and like today, it had to be that way. And even those that I may have gotten upset with, I'm not upset with anymore. And I also understand where they come from. Like, hey, give me a Bollywood film, I'll do it. Not too many, of course. I'll do one just for the novelty factor of it. But that's how I am now.
Like a song and dance. But nobody makes song and dance anyway anymore.
They don't?
I don't think so. I can't
Didn't
remember
circus
last time.
have song and dance?
Song and dance, yeah. I think what I meant was nobody makes a dancing around trees anymore. I hear that term, but I've never seen anyone dance.
Ironically, like, even though I said we should move beyond the song and dance, every idea I've ever come up with has song and dance. So Dave D, for example.
Right. It was a musical.
Yeah, to go from song to song to song. You know what I mean?
Like 18 songs, if I'm not mistaken.
There's a background score that almost tells the story. So, and then one other idea I wrote also had music in it. Another one I'm thinking about also has song and dance in it. So
song and dance is not the issue, right?
So, I mean, I'm saying that the issue is that it's only that.
Right.
But it has to have it. It's like, there's no problem having it, but can we have a little variety, There should be that there's song and dance films and there's ones that don't have song and dance. Like, why can't we have that?
Right.
Yeah, that was very difficult.
I know you made this point, and I just want to be very clear exactly why I asked you this question that I did, is also to highlight the fact that, which became a big discussion topic about 2 or 3 years ago, and it's been carrying on for a while. It's the whole thing about insider, outsider, right? And I think you are the perfect example of someone who the outsiders will think is an insider, and the insiders will say definitely an outsider, right? And that's something you've had to go through pretty much all through your career.
I was born an insider, but I pretty much lived as an outsider. I had all the opportunity to be in, for sure. Especially after like Oi Lucky and Dev D. I definitely had a red carpet entry into whoever I wanted to work with at that time.
We're forgetting Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara also, then, although
Not
little
just
later.
that, I mean, but even before that, like post Dev D, like I could have worked with everyone, anybody. Yeah, and that was also because I was born in a film family. Not just that I had successes behind me, also that I was doing newer stuff.
Yeah.
And I was so-and-so's brother and so-and-so's son and so-and-so's nephew. So there was that familial bonding there as well, and an openness to me. So I never deny the fact that we have privileges born into the film industry, but that just depends on how you use them. I can go on about the fact that as a star kid, you're already expected to be at a higher standard than another newcomer. So there's pros and cons to everything, but I'm not going to sit here and talk about the cons. I can talk about the pros. Cons are there, but again, it's not as simple as black and white. It isn't just that, oh, you were born in it, so you have easy access. Then I put a post, I said, well, can we talk about caste in that case? Because you're supposed to carry on the profession of your father and you're not allowed to move out of it. So how about talking about that, not just the film industry alone? It exists in every industry, nepotism does. And it more so in India than other countries simply because we are a culture of jati. So it has a far deeper relevance than nepotism in America, where it also exists. Right. So let's have that dialogue. Nobody had that dialogue. Because it's just easier to point fingers, especially with people who have more power and more attention, because then you can draw attention to yourself. They're scrutinized much more than other people are. And that destroys the purpose, because then what is your genuine attempt here? Do you really want a democratic process for everyone to have that chance? Because here I am, being an insider, trying to bring in new directors, new subjects, all the time, new actors. I never said no to that. And now OTT platforms are doing a lot of that. You see a lot more diversity than Bollywood ever had. But I'm not going to sit here and justify myself either. Like if you think I had an easy show, then so be it. I mean, you're doing your own self-disservice by judging others, because then you'll get judged in the same way.
But your first film, for instance, Socha Na Tha, right? Made by Vijeta Films, which is your family. It's sort of a family production in that sense. But it wasn't, I mean, from my memory of the film, when it came out, I don't think it was like this, like posters everywhere or hoardings everywhere, right? Do you think it was a low-key release?
It was. And we released, I remember it was 4th of March when the exams were on. It wasn't a very big release, no. The marketing wasn't necessarily out there, yeah.
Why is it called Vijeta Production?
My sister, my cousin, it's her name. She's younger to Sunny Bhaiya.
So it's Sunny Deol, Vijeta, and Bobby Deol.
No, then there's Ajita.
There's Ajita, another sister, and then there's Bobby Deol.
And then there's Bobby.
Right. Was Bobby supposed to play the lead in Socha Na Tha?
No.
Never, right? That was never the...
No.
It was always you. How did you meet Imtiaz and how did this happen?
I was introduced to him by somebody else from the industry, I remember, Sanjay. And he said, you should meet this guy, it's a great script. I said, okay. Then I heard him out. I loved it. I mean, Socha Na Tha is a strong script.
Yeah, it was. It's a great film.
Yeah, and I was like, this is amazing. I was like, let me introduce you to my brother. Well, no, he had another producer at the time who was not comfortable with a debut actor and a debut director. And I said, my brother would definitely take a chance. He takes chances on new directors all the time. So why not? And I think I know what he's going to do. He's going to love it. He's going to say, Abhay is exactly like this in real life. Because I know how they saw me. And that's exactly what happened. He loved it. He said, Abhay is exactly like this in real life. And that's how that came about. And then Imtiaz still auditioned me. But it was fine. I was like, I'll play your game. It's fine. Yeah.
You've seen his films, right? You've seen his rom-coms
I saw
thereafter?
Jab We Met, of course, and I saw Rockstar.
What do you think of them?
I actually prefer Jab We Met to Rockstar.
Okay.
Yeah. But I found it very similar to Socha Na Tha. So I like Rockstar because I think he kind of was moving away from his standard narrative of triangles, . So I think it was definitely a good attempt. Yeah, and Ranveer is great to watch as well. So yeah.
So that's someone who was an outsider and then is clearly an insider now.
Yeah,
so it's a
yeah.
process, isn't it?
So like, you know, you hit success. It doesn't matter if you're inside or outside. They all want to work with you. You're getting calls from the biggest stars. And what you have to understand is it's very cliquish. You're part of this camp or that camp. And everybody knows that already. So you kind of find your own for your own security. And like I said, I had access to all of them. And I was just like, no.
No?
Because I don't know, like I was young and I just didn't want to be, I just wanted to be my own person. And I was angry.
Oh.
Yeah.
What were you
I was
angry
definitely
about?
I guess I grew up around fame, and so seeing what it does, how intrusive it is, your privacy is gone and you're already prejudged. I wanted to work, but I didn't want to be famous necessarily.
That's not possible, right, Abhay? You can't be an actor,
I get it.
but hope to be...
Yeah, like anonymous.
Yeah.
Or just at least like people will leave me alone.
Right. That's not going to happen.
No, and also angry like you're gonna eventually be nice to me now, but if tomorrow any little wrong move on my part and you're gonna shaft me, you know, stab me in the back, like this, it's only temporary. All the things I'd seen growing up, and that does happen.
Right.
That's not to say other things, good things don't exist,
Yeah.
but this is my state of mind. Very protective of myself, like traumatized and wanting to keep fame and stardom away while living in fame and stardom. So there was a lot of conflict there.
It's fascinating. I think your growing up years totally fascinate me. Abhay, I mean, you know, like it's a joint family that you grew up in.
Yeah.
Right. There's your uncle Dharmendra, the great superstar, all-time great, the GOAT they call it now.
Oh my
Greatest of all
God!
time.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I remember the amount of people that would always be outside the house to see him. Even when Bhaiya hit the scene with Betab, it just added more. It was not a world that I was. I knew I wanted to act, but the world seemed scary. That an actor inhabits a space that an actor inhabits, and that was really intimidating. And so the anger towards media, and so the anger towards the people who surround an actor and stardom, and that still happens today. But again, like I said, there's good things too, but I wouldn't see those things back then, and that's probably why also a lot of people and I didn't stay on for too long, because I was expecting them to just conform or move on. You know, no one's going to sit here and rebel, and we live in a tradition-based culture. It's an old culture, so unlike America, which is all about individuality, rebellion is looked upon as something good, whereas in a traditional communal culture like us, rebellion is looked upon as disrespect. So here I am with these sort of idealistic contemporary values in an ancient world, with people who are in an industry that is very insecure and are going to do what's best for them. And so
when you were growing up, Abhay, like, did you have friends from Bollywood? I mean, you were in Juhu, and Juhu has this, you know, gang of. I'm presuming Ritik would be much older.
He was
to
older.
you and
not much, but he's older.
Uday Chopra would be. This is like a gang, right? They watched movies together. They hung out together. Were you part of this?
I wasn't part of any gang. Of course, I'd met Ritik as a kid, and Uday. I'd met Abhishek also as a kid, but I wasn't part of a gang as such. No.
Okay. So you had no Bollywood friends, really.
I'm trying to think.
Hey, Vikramaditya Motwane would be.
Vikram and me went to school together.
Right. That's a Bollywood friend, but not really.
But he wasn't Bollywood at the time. You're talking
yeah.
about people who are from the industry.
Yeah.
But Vikram and me went to school together.
Right. And you guys were close growing up.
Yeah, we were really, yeah.
And who were the other friends of yours who were probably not, or from Bollywood, or not?
No one really I hung out with from Bollywood as a kid, no.
Okay.
Just
The reason I'm asking this question is because there is a perception that you actually didn't want to be an actor. You could do other things. You're an artist in your own right. I've seen your stuff on Instagram. Great stuff.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. This is really good. You want to be a journalist, perhaps, or so I
mean, those were just give me options of your top 5 professions. Like it was more a lot of these things are just questions I've answered, but they aren't necessarily things I dwelled upon. The only thing the reason I didn't want to act, and that was only because I wanted for granted that I would, because I come from a family of actors.
Right.
And
was
then
your father an actor?
Yeah, he only did 2 films. This wasn't a very good one though.
I was trying to look up online if I
He
could
did like
find
2 movies.
Which were these 2 movies?
He wrote one, he produced one. They were all in the 70s.
Okay. Was he the lead? Ajit Deol was the lead, and was that the...
He was the lead in one of them.
Okay.
One never got made, and I remember Honey Auntie, Zoya's mum, she said the cutest thing to me once. She said that your father's the reason why my film didn't release. I was like, why? What do you mean? She's like, he had to hold my face. And how did he hold it like this? He was shivering.
Oh, so she was the leading lady.
She was the leading lady. I was like, I didn't even know that because I never saw that movie.
Right.
So, so he was, I can see that with him. But and then he went into Sher o Shairi and his writing of poetry and stuff like that from there. So, he was only for a short while involved in it, not for long.
Right. I think we've had a pretty long session where you've been really kind and sort of said all those things that you wanted to. I think the one thing that's kind of seeming true to me, and tell me if I'm mistaken, Abhay, this is to end the conversation, is, we are all entitled to our 20s. And there is a brashness that comes with that decade. We think that the world can do better or we can change the world.
We can change the world.
And do we look back and say, maybe we weren't that right after all, or maybe we weren't that wrong after all? What happens when you look back at your brash 20s and your early 30s, in fact?
I'm really lucky. I know I did create a lot of trouble, but it was all intended for the right purpose, and I created change. People still refer to films I did 10, 15 years ago saying that, they're still not making those films even today, or they're trying. So I know I made change. So I would tell people, no, believe in yourself. You only learn from your mistakes, so go out there, make mistakes, be vulnerable. As an adult, I can definitely say that with the knowledge I have today, I would do it a little smarter, for sure, to not be taken advantage of or being gaslit. Also to not make so many sacrifices. I would be in a different position today had I taken advantage. There's nothing wrong in taking advantage. I used to equate money and power with corruption also. And I think a lot of people are like that. I've had to work on that and see that, money doesn't necessarily equal corruption or misuse of power. That money is like energy, and it's something that you can make good use of if you have a lot of. Think of it that way instead of it's a corrupt force. I've had to look at the mistakes I've made, and they gave me the answers. Had I not put myself out there, made those sacrifices, made those mistakes, then I wouldn't be the person I am today. And I'm pretty happy with who I am and where I am. And I'm not done yet. The world has changed, and you're more answerable today than ever before. So clearly I did something right. Okay, it was maybe 20 years ahead, but those 20 years have come. Exactly. So I'd like to see where this goes, and if I can better myself. That's all I work towards, and my attention is on the positive. So one thing you should always know, and this is what you tell people, is wherever you put your attention, that's where your energy will go. So I could still be angry today or still bitter by my experiences. You'll see that. Even if I don't talk about them, you'll see if I'm bitter or angry at any level. If I have gratitude, you'll see that. If I have, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
yes.
It's that. The human condition is complex. It's not an easy one. Everything that we've spoken of today are not black and white answers, and there's a lot left out, you would think, that you heard it all. No, there was a lot left out. But that's part of the life experience, and again, my attention is on the fact that what a privilege to be born where I was born, in the family I was born. What a privilege to make the mistakes I made, to speak truth to power. How many people get to do that? To change the psyche of a country. Like I had this girl, I remember I had this one really brief appearance talk, and this one girl in the audience got up, and this was after the fairness cream thing. She said, I'd like you to know I'm from a middle class family. We have nothing to do with films or high society. My parents were always pressurizing me to get married because they feel like you're too dark. No one's going to marry you anyways. So let's get you married off now, quicker while you're young. And after you did your thing, they never spoke about my complexion ever again. They understood, they saw. So I want you to know that you have had an effect to a large public. So now, okay, I did it. I've always taken to task my industry. I always have. But what can you do? You clean up your own shop first. And I was almost on this space of, nobody else is bloody doing it. What the hell is your problem? Like, just shut up. Shut up, suck it up, make money. What's your problem? There was that voice going on. And then when she said that, I was like, yeah, this is far more better than getting that big project with that big producer or director. This is far better than that because I'm able to translate in such a way none of those guys can because they're endorsing those same creams. So you see, you start to find the positives. And what can I say? Like, now I feel like I'm blowing my own trumpet.
Abhay Deol, you do you, as the Gen Z say,
Oh, boy.
or you be you. Thank you so much for joining us on the
Thanks
show.
for having me.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.